I wasn't looking for someone young. I was looking for someone honest. She said she was 29, no kids, no ex-husband. I believed her because I wanted to, but when I helped her apply for her transcript, the school sent back a copy of her diploma. She graduated in 2002, which meant she wasn't 29, she was 39, and that wasn't the only lie. I never chased youth. At 62, I'd seen enough of life to know that pretty faces fade and sweet words can turn bitter. What I wanted was simple. Someone kind, someone real, someone who wouldn't see my retirement savings as a lottery ticket. That's how I found myself on a language exchange website at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, scrolling through profiles of women half my age who all seemed to want the same thing. Then I saw her. Charina del Rosario from Davao City, Philippines. Her profile was different. No bikini photos. No promises of eternal love in broken English. Just a simple headshot and a few sentences. I work online helping businesses with their documents. I love reading and cooking traditional Filipino food, looking for genuine friendship and maybe something more if we connect. I sent her a message. Hi Charina, I'm Daniel from Boise. I noticed you mentioned reading. What's your favorite book? 3 hours later, she replied. Hello Sir Dan. Thank you for your polite message. I love to read mystery novels, especially Agatha Christie. What about you? Sir Dan. That made me smile. Nobody called me sir anymore. We started chatting regularly. Her English was perfect. Her messages thoughtful. She never asked about money or visas or green cards. She asked about my work, my hobbies, my family. I'm 29 years old, she told me during our third conversation. Not too young, not too old, I think. Is that okay for you, Sir Dan? I laughed during our first video call. Charina, I'm 62. If anyone should be worried about age, it's me. She smiled that soft smile I'd grown to love. Age is just a number, Sir Dan. What matters is the heart. I should have been suspicious. A beautiful 29-year-old woman interested in a retired insurance adjuster from Idaho. But she seemed different, mature. She worked long hours transcribing medical documents. She sent me photos of her simple apartment, her small desk covered in paperwork. I help support my mother, she explained. It's not easy, but I manage. We talked for hours about everything. Books, movies, food, dreams. She never rushed me toward romance. Never pushed for more than I was comfortable giving. You're very mature for your age, I told her one evening. She laughed softly. Maybe because I've had to grow up fast, Sir Dan. Life has taught me to be practical. That should have been my first clue. But I was falling in love with her voice, her laugh, the way she called me Sir Dan even when I told her a dozen times to just call me Daniel. I like showing respect, she said. My mother taught me that. The age gap worried me initially. 33 years. What would people think? What would my daughter Sarah think? But Charina made it feel natural. My heart doesn't see numbers, Sir Dan. It sees a kind man who makes me laugh. 3 months of daily conversations. 3 months of video calls where she'd show me her world. Her tiny kitchen where she cooked adobo and pancit. The view from her window overlooking the busy streets of Davao. Her mother's garden where she grew tomatoes and eggplant. I want you to meet her someday, Charina said. She would like you, I think. I started planning the trip without even realizing it. Book the flight, get the visa, pack for 2 weeks in the Philippines. Sarah thought I was having a midlife crisis. Dad, you don't even know this woman. What if she's not who she says she is? But I did know her. We'd talked every single day for 3 months. I'd seen her tired after long work days, happy when she finished a difficult project, sad when she missed her father who'd passed away 5 years earlier. She's not like the others, Sarah. She's genuine. My daughter sighed. Just be careful, okay? Don't do anything stupid. I promised her I'd be smart about it. But my heart was already committed. Charina wasn't some young girl looking for adventure. She was a woman who'd seen enough of life to appreciate stability, kindness, maturity. She was everything I'd been looking for, and I was ready to find out if what we had over video calls could translate into something real. The flight to Manila felt endless. 14 hours of second-guessing myself, staring at her photo, replaying our last conversation. I'm so nervous to meet you, Sir Dan. What if you don't like me in person? I'd laughed. Charina, I've seen you on video every day for 3 months. You're beautiful. But now, walking through Ninoy Aquino Airport toward the domestic terminal, I wondered what I'd gotten myself into. The connecting flight to Davao was delayed 2 hours. I texted her. Flight delayed, but I'll be there by 7. Her response came immediately. No problem, Sir Dan. I'll wait for you. The domestic terminal was chaos. Families with boxes and bags, children crying, vendors selling everything from phone chargers to dried mangoes. I felt completely out of place. A 62-year-old American retiree chasing a woman I'd never touched, never smelled, never shared a meal with. What if Sarah was right? What if this was all a mistake? The flight to Davao was bumpy, packed with locals who stared at me curiously. I tried to sleep, but my mind kept racing. What if she wasn't who I thought she was? What if the connection we'd built online didn't exist in person? What if I'd flown halfway around the world to discover I'd been talking to a stranger? When we landed in Davao, the air hit me like a warm, humid blanket. The airport was small, crowded, overwhelming. I followed the other passengers toward baggage claim, scanning the waiting area for her face, and then I saw her, standing near the arrivals gate in a white blouse and dark jeans, holding a small sign with my name. She was more beautiful than her photos, but also different, older, maybe. Her face had lines that didn't show up on video calls. Character lines, I told myself. Lifelines. She wasn't 22. She looked like a woman who'd lived. Sir Dan. She waved and rushed toward me, her smile lighting up her whole face. When she hugged me, she felt real, warm, solid. Not like some fantasy I'd built in my head. How was your flight? You must be so tired. Her voice was exactly the same. Soft, careful, respectful. It was long but worth it to finally meet you properly. I meant it. Standing there in that crowded airport, holding her for the first time, everything felt right. She smelled like jasmine and something else, something clean and simple. Come, my cousin is waiting with his car. We'll take you to your hotel so you can rest. But I didn't want to rest. I wanted to talk to her, look at her, confirm that this woman I'd fallen in love with over video calls was real. In the car, she sat close to me but not too close. Respectful of boundaries but clearly comfortable. You look tired, Sir Dan, but also happy. I was happy. Confused by how different she looked from what I'd expected, but happy. You look more mature than in your photos. I told her honestly. She blushed. Maybe because I was nervous about taking pictures. I'm not very photogenic. That made sense. Some people just didn't photograph well. In person, she was lovely. Not young lovely, real lovely. Like a woman who'd learned how to be beautiful through experience rather than genetics. Tomorrow I want you to meet my mother, she said as we drove through the busy streets of Davao. She's very excited. She's been cooking for 2 days. I squeezed her hand. I'd love to meet her. The hotel was modest but clean. She walked me to my room, carried one of my bags, made sure I had everything I needed. I know you're tired, Sir Dan. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll spend the whole day together. At my door, she kissed my cheek softly. I'm so happy you're here. This feels like a dream. After she left, I sat on the bed, staring at myself in the mirror. She looked older than 29, maybe 35. But so what? I was 62. What did it matter if she was 35 instead of 29? Life had probably been hard for her. Working online, supporting her mother, dealing with the stress of long-distance romance. Of course she looked older than her age. I looked older than mine too. The important thing was that she was here, she was real, and she seemed as happy to see me as I was to see her. That night I slept better than I had in months. For the first time in 3 months, I didn't fall asleep to the sound of her voice on a video call. She was just down the street. Real. Waiting for tomorrow. Sir Dan, this is my mother Lena. Mama, this is Sir Dan I told you about. Charina's mother was a small, elegant woman in her 60s, who greeted me with a smile that seemed practiced. Too perfect, too ready. Welcome to our home, Sir Dan. Charina has told me so much about you. The house was modest but spotless. Every surface polished, every decoration carefully placed. Like someone had spent days preparing for my visit. Which they probably had. Thank you for welcoming me, Mrs. Del Rosario. Your daughter is a wonderful woman, Lena beamed. Yes, she is very good girl, very responsible. She takes care of everyone. We sat in the small living room while Charina disappeared into the kitchen. The walls were covered with family photos, certificates, religious images. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Charina works very hard, her mother continued. Every day with the computer, helping American companies. She sends money home, helps with the house. Very good daughter. I nodded, studying the photos on the wall. Charina at various ages. Graduation photos, family gatherings, birthday parties. But something felt rehearsed about this conversation. Like her mother was following a script. She told me about her work, medical transcription, right? Yes. Very important work. She's very smart, always top of her class in school. Charina returned with coffee and a plate of cookies. Mama, don't embarrass me. But she was smiling, proud. I'm not embarrassing you, Anak. I'm just telling Sir Dan what a good student you were. We spent the afternoon meeting cousins, neighbors, family friends. Everyone was polite, too polite. They asked careful questions about America, my work, my family. But it felt like they were all reading from the same playbook. How nice that Charina found such a good man. She deserves happiness after working so hard. You two make a good couple. The strange moment came when we were sitting in the backyard with her. Teenage cousins. One of them, a boy maybe 16 years old, was helping Charina serve more food. Salamat, hey cha, he said, using the respectful term for older sister. But then he slipped. Actually, nay cha, can you? He stopped mid-sentence, his face going red. Nay, that wasn't sister, that was mother. Charina froze for just a second, then laughed it off. He's always confusing his words, always making jokes. But the boy looked terrified, like he'd made a serious mistake. Sorry, 8. I meant 8. The moment passed. Everyone kept talking, laughing, acting normal. But I caught Charina's mother giving the boy a sharp look. Later, when we were walking back to her apartment, I asked about it. That was strange when your cousin called you Nay. Is that a nickname or something? She didn't miss a beat. Oh, that, yes, it's just a silly nickname because I'm always taking care of everyone. Like a mother hen, She laughed, but it sounded forced. He's always teasing me about being too serious. I let it go. But something about that moment stuck with me. The way everyone had gone quiet for just a second. The way the boy had looked scared. The way her mother had given him that warning look. That night, lying in my hotel bed, I replayed the day. Everything had been perfect. Too perfect. Like a performance. Like everyone knew their lines except me. But maybe that was just Filipino hospitality. Maybe families there always put on their best behavior for foreign visitors. Maybe I was overthinking because I was nervous, jet-lagged, overwhelmed by being in a completely different culture. Charina had been wonderful all day. Attentive, affectionate, proud to introduce me to everyone. She'd held my hand, translated conversations, made sure I was comfortable. She'd been everything I'd hoped she would be. So why did I feel like something was off? Why did that one slip of a word keep echoing in my head? Nay cha. Mother cha. But she was 29 years old. What teenage boy would call a 9-year-old cousin mother? I told myself I was being paranoid. Cultural differences. Language confusion. Jet lag making me suspicious of nothing. But deep down something felt wrong. Too scripted. Too careful. Too perfect. Sir Dan, I need your help with something. There's a company in California that wants to hire me for better transcription work. Much better pay. But they need official documents from my school. We were having breakfast at a small cafe near my hotel. She looked nervous, stirring her coffee without drinking it. What kind of documents? I asked. Diploma, transcripts, things like that. But it's very difficult to get them from here. The school is slow, the mail is unreliable. The company says if I don't send the documents within 2 weeks, they'll give the job to someone else. I could see how much this meant to her. Better pay would change her life. How can I help? Maybe you could contact them from America? Americans get better service, I think. Faster responses. It made sense. Philippine bureaucracy was probably slower than American companies were willing to wait for. Of course, I'll help. What school did you graduate from? Sacred Heart Academy here in Davao. I graduated in 2002. She pulled out a folded piece of paper with the school's contact information written in her careful handwriting. You're sure about this? 2002. Something in my voice made her look up. Yes, why? Nothing. I just want to make sure I have the right year. But I was doing math in my head. If she graduated high school in 2002, she would have been around 18 then, which would make her 39 now, not 29. Maybe she meant college graduation. Maybe she graduated high school earlier. Maybe I was miscalculating. Was that high school or college graduation? I asked casually. High school. I never went to college. I started working right after to help my family. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. Okay, I'll contact them as soon as I get back to my room. Back at the hotel, I found the school's email address and sent a formal request. As an American citizen helping his girlfriend secure employment, could they please send official copies of Charina Del Rosario's graduation documents from 2002? I provided all her information, explained the urgency, offered to pay any fees. The response came faster than I expected. 3 hours later, my email chimed. Dear Mr. Pierce, thank you for your inquiry. We have located the records for Miss Charina Del Rosario. Please find attached a certified copy of her high school diploma from Sacred Heart Academy, class of 2002. As requested, we are also including her official transcript. The processing fee is $25 USD, payable via international bank transfer. Please confirm receipt of these documents. I opened the attachment with shaking hands. There it was. Official letterhead, school seal, formal signatures. This certifies that Charina Del Rosario has satisfactorily completed all requirements for graduation from Sacred Heart Academy, Davao City, Philippines. Graduation date, the 15th of March, 2002. If she graduated high school in 2002 at age 18, she was born in 1984, which made her 39 years old in 2023, not 29. I stared at the screen for 20 minutes, rereading the document, double-checking my math, hoping I was wrong, but the numbers didn't lie. She'd lied to me for 3 months, told me she was 29 when she was actually 39. A 10-year lie. Why? What else had she lied about? I sat on the hotel bed holding my laptop, staring at official proof that the woman I'd flown halfway around the world to meet had been deceiving me from our very first conversation. The age gap wasn't 33 years, it was 23 years, which was still significant, but not the point. The point was that she'd looked me in the eye through a camera for 3 months and lied. Consistently, deliberately. What else was she lying about? I printed the documents at the hotel business center, held the physical papers in my hands, read her name, the date, the official seals. Proof that everything I thought I knew about her was built on lies. That night, I barely slept. Should I confront her immediately? Should I pack my bags and fly home? Should I give her a chance to explain? Maybe there was a reason. Maybe she was scared I wouldn't want her if I knew her real age. Maybe she thought it didn't matter. Maybe she'd planned to tell me eventually. But the math was so clear. And the lie was so deliberate. She hadn't accidentally said 29 instead of 39. She'd built an entire persona around being younger than she was. She'd made me feel guilty about our age gap when the gap was actually smaller than I thought. She'd manipulated my emotions based on a lie. The next morning, I called her. Charina, can you come to the hotel? We need to talk. She arrived 30 minutes later, dressed in a yellow sundress, carrying a small bag of pastries from the bakery down the street. Good morning, Sir Dan. I brought you some pan de sal for breakfast. Her smile was bright, genuine. The same smile I'd fallen in love with over video calls. The same smile that had greeted me at the airport. The same smile that was built on lies. Sit down, Charina. We need to have a serious conversation. Her smile flickered. She set the pastries on the small table by the window and sat across from me on the bed. Is everything okay? You sound upset. I pulled out the printed documents. Her diploma, her transcript, the email from her school. Laid them on the bed between us like evidence in a trial. I got the documents you needed. From Sacred Heart Academy, class of 2002. She looked down at the papers, and I watched her face change. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands started shaking slightly. She knew what I'd discovered. Charina, if you graduated high school in 2002, that means you're not 29 years old. You're 39. Silence. Long, horrible silence. She stared at the documents like they might disappear if she looked hard enough. Please say something, I said quietly. Tell me there's been a mistake. Tell me I'm wrong about the math. Tell me something. Finally, she looked up at me. Her eyes were filling with tears, but she wasn't crying yet. I can explain, Sir Dan. Then explain, please. Because right now I feel like I don't know you at all. She took a shaky breath. I was afraid you wouldn't love me if I was older. American men, they always want young women. I thought if I told you I was 39, you would find someone younger. So you lied to me for 3 months? Every single day? Not about everything, just my age. Everything else was true. Everything else? Charina, if you can lie about something that basic for 3 months, what else are you lying about? She started crying then. Soft, quiet tears that made me want to comfort her even though she'd just admitted to deceiving me. There's something else, Sir Dan. I have a son. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. What? I have a 9-year-old boy. His name is Maiko. He lives with my sister because I work so much, but he's my son. I stood up and walked to the window, staring down at the busy street below. People going about their normal lives while mine fell apart in a hotel room. You told me you'd never been married. You told me you had no children. I wasn't married to his father. We lived together for 2 years, but he left when Maiko was small. I support him by myself. That's not the point, Charina. The point is that you lied. Again, what else? What other major parts of your life have you been hiding from me? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Nothing else, Sir Dan. I promise. Just my age and my son. I was going to tell you about Miko when you came back to visit again. I just wanted you to know me first before you knew about my responsibilities. I turned around and looked at her, still beautiful. Still, the woman I'd talked to every day for 3 months. But also a complete stranger. How can I believe anything you tell me now? How do I know this isn't just the next layer of lies? Because I'm telling you the truth now. Yes, I lied about my age because I was scared. Yes, I didn't tell you about my son because I was afraid you would run away. But everything else was real. My feelings for you, my work, my family, everything else was true. I sat back down on the bed, but didn't move the documents. Let them stay there between us. Physical proof of her deception. I need time to think about this, Charina. This isn't just about the lies. It's about trust. How can I trust you now? Please don't give up on us, Sir Dan. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. That was never a lie. Love. She was talking about love while official documents proving her dishonesty lay spread across the hotel bed. I need some space today. Can you give me that? She nodded, collecting her purse, leaving the pastries on the table. At the door, she turned back. I'm sorry, Sir Dan. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. After she left, I sat alone with the documents for hours, reading them over and over, trying to reconcile the woman I thought I knew with the woman who could lie so easily about such fundamental facts. 39, not 29. A mother, not childless. What else was she hiding? And why did I still care about her despite everything? We didn't break up. I should have packed my bags and flown home, but I didn't. Maybe it was the sunk cost of the plane ticket. Maybe it was pride, not wanting to admit I'd been fooled. Maybe I was still hoping there was a way to salvage something real from the wreckage of her lies. I understand if you don't trust me yet, she said the next morning when she came to take me to breakfast. But please give me a chance to prove that everything else about me is real. I agreed to stay for the remaining 10 days of my trip. But everything felt different now. Forced. Like we were both acting in a play where only she knew the script. She tried harder than ever to be the perfect girlfriend. Cooked elaborate meals in her tiny apartment, planned romantic walks along the beach, bought me small gifts with money she probably couldn't afford to spend. I want you to be happy here, Sir Dan. I want you to know that my feelings are true even if I made mistakes about other things. But I couldn't stop analyzing everything she said and did. Was this genuine affection, or was she trying to manipulate me into forgetting about her lies? When she laughed at my jokes, Was she really amused or was she performing? When she held my hand while we walked, was she being romantic or strategic? The worst part was that I could see her trying. Every morning she woke up early to make me coffee exactly the way I liked it. She remembered every story I'd told her about my life back home and asked follow-up questions. She introduced me to more family members, took me to her favorite places, shared childhood memories. "This is where I learned to swim," she said, pointing to a section of beach near her mother's house. "My father taught me when I was 7. He was very patient." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think that despite the lies about her age and her son, the woman I'd fallen in love with over video calls was still real, but doubt poisoned everything. One night, while she was cooking dinner in her apartment, I noticed she had 2 phones. One smartphone that she used when we talked, and an older flip phone that she kept in her purse. "Why do you have 2 phones?" I asked casually. "Oh, one is for work, one is personal. The work phone has better internet for my transcription." That made sense. But later that evening, while she was showering, the flip phone buzzed with a text message. The screen lit up with a message preview in Tagalog. I couldn't read it, but I saw a man's name. Vicente. When she came out of the bathroom, I mentioned it. "Your work phone got a message from someone named Vicente." Her face went tight for just a second. "Probably a client. I'll check it later." But it was 10 o'clock at night. What kind of work message came at 10 p.m.? The next day, I heard her on a phone call while I was in the bathroom. She was speaking quietly in rapid Tagalog, but her tone sounded urgent, almost argumentative. When I came out, she was putting the flip phone back in her purse. "Work call?" I asked. "Yes, just a client with questions about a project." But she wouldn't meet my eyes when she said it. I started paying closer attention. The secret phone calls. The way she'd step outside to answer certain calls. The way she'd quickly put the phone away when I entered the room. "I need to go to the market," she said one afternoon. "Do you want to come with me or rest here?" I said I'd rest. But 20 minutes after she left, I heard her voice outside the apartment building. She was on the phone, speaking in Tagalog, and her voice was raised, almost angry. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the emotion. She was fighting with someone. When she came back an hour later with vegetables and rice, I asked if everything was okay. "Of course, Sir Dan. Why do you ask? I thought I heard you on the phone outside. You sounded upset." "Oh, that was just my cousin. She's having problems with her boyfriend. Girl drama, you know." Another lie. I was sure of it. The tone I'd heard wasn't the tone of someone giving relationship advice. It was the tone of someone defending themselves, or making demands. That night I lay awake listening to her breathe beside me, wondering who she really was. The sweet, hard-working woman I'd met online? The liar who'd deceived me about her age and her son? Someone else entirely? I'd come to the Philippines looking for love, but I was starting to realize I'd found something much more complicated. "Sir Dan, you seem sad today. Are you okay?" She brought me coffee in bed, the same ritual she'd performed every morning for the past week. But this time I could barely look at her. "I'm fine, just tired. Maybe we should stay in today. Watch movies, cook together, just relax." She curled up beside me on the bed, resting her head on my shoulder. A month ago, this would have been perfect. Now it felt like another performance. The night before, I'd heard her on another phone call. This time, she'd gone downstairs to the street, but I could still hear her voice through the window. She was arguing with someone. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. When she came back upstairs, she was quiet, distracted. "Everything okay?" I'd asked. "Yes, just family problems. Nothing for you to worry about." But I was worried. Not about her family problems, about who she really was and what I'd gotten myself into. That morning, while she showered, I opened my laptop and changed my flight. Instead of leaving in 4 days, I booked a seat on the evening flight to Manila. I'd catch the red-eye to San Francisco and be home by tomorrow night. I didn't tell her. I just quietly started packing my clothes, leaving out only what I'd need for the day. "What do you want to do today, Sir Dan?" she asked, toweling her hair dry. "Maybe we could go to the mall, do some shopping before you leave." That sounds nice. But I was already planning my escape route. The airport was an hour away. I'd need to leave by 5 p.m. to catch the 7:30 flight. That gave me all day to figure out what to say to her. or whether to say anything at all. We walked through the mall holding hands. She bought me a shirt with Davao City printed on it. "So you don't forget us," she said with a smile that used to melt my heart. Now it just made me sad. At lunch, she was more talkative than usual, almost manic, telling stories about her childhood, asking about my plans for when I got home, talking about maybe visiting me in Idaho someday. "I've never seen snow," she said. "I'd love to experience a real American winter with you." I nodded and smiled and played along. But inside I was already gone. Already sitting on the plane, already putting this whole experience behind me. At 4 o'clock, I told her I was tired and wanted to rest at the hotel before dinner. "I'll come get you at 7, she said. "I made reservations at that seafood place you liked." "Perfect, I'll see you at 7. But at 5 p.m., I was in a taxi heading to the airport. My bags were in the trunk, my boarding pass was on my phone, and I was finally telling the truth to someone. Even if that someone was just myself. The taxi driver tried to make conversation. "Business or vacation, sir?" "Neither," I said. "Mistake." He laughed like I was making a joke. At the airport, while I waited for my flight, I thought about calling her, explaining why I left, telling her that the lies had made it impossible for me to trust anything between us. But what was the point? She'd either try to manipulate me into coming back, or she'd get angry and say things that would make me feel worse than I already did. Better to just disappear. Let her figure it out when I didn't show up for dinner. On the plane, I deleted our photos from my phone. 3 months of video calls, selfies, screenshots of sweet text messages, all of it gone with a few swipes of my thumb. But I kept one photo. A picture she'd shown me of her son, Miko. A 9-year-old boy with her eyes and a gap-toothed smile. The only person in her life who'd never lied to me because he didn't even know I existed. The flight attendant offered me a drink. "Whiskey," I said. "Double." I toasted silently to the boy in the photo. The only honest person in Charina's world. "So let me get this straight," Terry said, leaning back in his chair at our usual Friday night spot. "She lied about her age, lied about having a kid, probably had some other guy on the side, and you're still sending money to the Philippines?" Terry was my oldest friend. We'd worked together for 15 years before we both retired. He had the kind of blunt honesty that I usually appreciated, but tonight it felt like salt in a wound. "I'm sending money for her son's school, not for her." "Danny, come on. You think that money is going to any school? You think she's not just pocketing it?" I took a long sip of my beer. 3 months since I'd left Davao without saying goodbye. 3 months of trying to make sense of what had happened. Maybe, but maybe not. The kid didn't ask to be born to a mother who lies for a living. The kid you never met. The kid who might not even exist. That possibility had occurred to me. Maybe Miko was just another lie. Maybe the photo was borrowed from a relative's social media. Maybe everything, absolutely everything, had been fabricated. "You want to know what I think?" Terry continued. "I think you knew something was off from the beginning. I think you saw the red flags and ignored them because it felt good to have a beautiful woman paying attention to you." He wasn't wrong. Even during those first video calls, there had been moments when her story didn't quite add up. When her English was too perfect for someone who claimed to have never lived abroad. When her apartment looked too nice for someone struggling financially. When her family was too eager to meet me, too prepared for my visit. "You're probably right." Of course I'm right. "Look, I get it. After Linda died, you were lonely. You wanted to believe that some gorgeous woman halfway around the world could fall in love with you through a computer screen. But that's not how the world works, Danny. Especially not for guys like us. Guys like us. 60-something. American men with retirement savings and dead wives. Prime targets for romance scams. But here's what I don't understand," he continued. "Why are you still thinking about her? Why are you still sending money? Why aren't you angry?" That was the question I'd been asking myself for 3 months. Why wasn't I angry? Why wasn't I bitter? Why wasn't I warning other men on those dating sites about women like Charina? I don't know. Maybe because I got something out of it too. Like what, besides a lighter bank account? For 3 months I felt wanted. For 3 months, I had someone to talk to every day. Someone who seemed interested in my life, my thoughts, my stories. Even if it was fake, it felt real while it was happening. Terry shook his head. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard you say. Maybe it was sad, but it was also honest. Those 3 months of daily conversations had been the happiest I'd felt since Linda passed away. Even built on lies, they'd given me something to look forward to every day. A reason to shower, shave, put on a nice shirt for our video calls. A reason to think about the future instead of just surviving the present. She made me feel like I mattered to someone again. I told Terry, even if it wasn't real. But it wasn't real, Danny. That's the point. You fell in love with a character she was playing. I know that now. But for 3 months, I didn't know. For 3 months, I was happy. Terry finished his beer and signaled for another round. So what now? You going to try again? Find another woman online? No, I'm done with that. But I'm not done with hope, I guess. I'm just going to be smarter about it. Meaning what? Meaning, if I meet someone, it'll be here. Someone I can actually know before I fall in love with them. Someone whose story I can verify before I buy a plane ticket. The waitress brought our beers. Terry raised his glass. To being smarter. I raised mine. To being smarter, but not cynical. What's the difference? Cynical would be never trusting anyone again. Smart is learning how to trust better. We drank to that. But later, driving home to my empty house, I wondered if I was just telling myself what I needed to hear. The truth was, I missed her. Not the real Charina, whoever she was. I missed the woman I'd talked to every night for 3 months. The woman who called me Sir Dan and laughed at my stories and made me feel like I had something valuable to offer another person. That woman was gone. Maybe she'd never existed. But the feelings she'd created in me were real. The hope, the excitement, the sense of possibility. Charina had taken those away when she lied. But she'd also given them to me in the first place. That night I sat at my computer and sent another payment to Sacred Heart Academy in Davao. $200 for Miko Del Rosario's school fees. I'd been doing it every month since I got back. Anonymous donations through the school's International Student Aid Program. I'd never know if the money actually reached him. I'd never know if he even existed. But I'd rather be a fool who helped a child get an education than a cynic who let suspicion stop him from doing something good. The next morning, I deleted Charina's contact information from my phone. Her number, her email, her social media profiles. I'd kept them for 3 months, telling myself I was just being practical in case I needed to contact her about something. But the truth was, I'd been tempted to reach out, to ask her why, to see if she missed me, to see if any of it had been real for her. Now I let it all go, not because I was angry, but because I was finally ready to accept that I'd never get the answers I wanted. Some stories don't have endings. They just stop. 6 months later, I was working in my garden when Sarah called. Dad, I've been thinking about what happened with that woman in the Philippines. Are you okay? I mean, really okay? I set down my pruning shears and sat on the back porch steps. Yeah, sweetheart, I'm okay. You never really talked about it. You just came home and acted like nothing happened. What was there to talk about? I made a mistake. I learned from it. I moved on. But you must have been hurt. You must have been angry. I watched a pair of cardinals at the bird feeder Linda had installed years ago. They came every morning. A routine as reliable as sunrise. I was hurt, but not angry. There's a difference. I don't understand the difference. Hurt is about what happened to you. Anger is about what you want to do to someone else. I was hurt that she lied. But I wasn't angry enough to want revenge or to hate all women, or to give up on the idea that there are good people in the world. That's very mature of you, Dad, or very naive. I can't decide which. I laughed. Maybe both. But I'd rather be naively hopeful than wisely bitter. After I hung up, I thought about what I'd told my daughter. Was I really as at peace with everything as I claimed, or was I just getting better at lying to myself? The truth was more complicated. Some days I felt wise, grateful for the lesson, proud of how I'd handled the situation. Other days I felt like a fool who'd been taken advantage of by someone who saw my loneliness as an opportunity. But most days I felt something else entirely. Sad for her. Sad that her life had taught her that lying was easier than trusting. Sad that she felt she had to create a fake version of herself to be loved. Sad that in a world full of real connections, she'd chosen manipulation over honesty. I'd kept sending money to the school. Not every month, but often enough. Birthday donations, Christmas donations, random Tuesday donations, when I felt like doing something good. I told myself it was for Maiko, if he existed, but maybe it was also for the woman who'd lied to me. A way of saying that even though she'd hurt me, I didn't wish her harm. That fall, Terry convinced me to try a local dating service. Real women, Danny. Women you can meet for coffee before you buy plane tickets. I went on 3 dates. Nice women. Age-appropriate women. Honest women, as far as I could tell. But there was no spark, no excitement, no sense of possibility. Maybe you're not ready, Terry said after the 3rd unsuccessful date. Maybe you're still hung up on the Philippines. I'm not hung up on her. I'm hung up on the feeling she gave me. The feeling that someone was excited to hear from me every day. The feeling that my stories mattered to someone. The feeling that the future held more than just doctor appointments and loneliness. You can have that with someone real. Maybe. But it won't be the same. It'll be better in some ways and worse in others. It'll be more honest but less intense. More stable but less thrilling. And that's bad? No, it's just different. And I'm not sure I'm ready for different yet. The holidays came and went. New Year's resolutions that I didn't make because I'd already learned what I needed to learn. Spring arrived early that year, and I found myself thinking about Charina less often. Not because I'd forgotten her, but because I'd integrated the experience into my story instead of fighting against it. She'd taught me that I was still capable of feeling deeply about another person. That was worth something, even if everything else had been a lie. She'd taught me that I was more gullible than I'd thought. That was worth knowing too. She'd taught me that loneliness makes people vulnerable to manipulation, but also that loneliness makes people open to connection. That the same need that had made me susceptible to her lies had also made me capable of love. Most importantly, she'd taught me that I was stronger than I'd thought. I'd survived being lied to, manipulated, and abandoned. I'd handled it with more grace than anger. I'd found a way to move forward without becoming bitter. That was the real gift she'd given me. Not the 3 months of fake romance, but the discovery that I could be hurt deeply and still choose kindness over cynicism. I could be fooled and still choose to trust again. I could be disappointed and still choose hope. One evening in late spring, I was watching the news when a story came on about romance scams targeting older Americans. The reporter interviewed several men who'd lost thousands of dollars to women in Southeast Asia who'd never existed. These predators target lonely, vulnerable seniors, the reporter said. They create elaborate fake personas designed to manipulate victims emotionally and financially. I thought about calling the reporter, telling my story, warning other men about the signs I'd missed. But then I imagined Charina watching that report, seeing her photo on television, labeled as a predator and a criminal. Maybe she deserved that. Maybe she was exactly what the reporter described. But maybe she was just a woman trying to survive in a difficult world who'd made some bad choices about how to do it. Maybe she genuinely cared about me, even while lying to me. Maybe in her mind, the lies were justified by the alternative. Maybe she told herself that age was just a number, that keeping secrets about her son was protecting him, that what I didn't know couldn't hurt me. Maybe she was a victim of circumstances I couldn't understand, using the only tools she had to try to build a better life. Or maybe she was exactly the calculating manipulator the news report described, and I was still being naive about her motivations. The truth was, I'd never know, and I'd made peace with not knowing. What I knew for certain was that for 3 months, she'd made me happy. For 3 months, I'd felt wanted and valued and excited about the future. Even if it was all fake, those feelings had been real, and they'd reminded me that I was still capable of feeling them. That was worth the price I'd paid. Worth the embarrassment, the disappointment, the lesson in humility. Because the alternative to risking being hurt is never risking anything at all. And that's not a life. That's just existence. So I turned off the news and went to my computer. Not to write to Charina, but to update my online dating profile. Real local women this time. Age-appropriate expectations. But still open to possibility. Still willing to believe that somewhere out there was someone looking for exactly what I had to offer. Someone honest enough to tell me the truth about who she was. Someone brave enough to let me do the same.